So today, guys, we're going to be talking to Martin Miller, who's a really a young guy at the very top of his game, an incredible player, very nice guy, and he's going to be rolling us through, how he started, what he's doing now, where he's going, talking about an album release that's coming out very soon and some teaching that he does. But actually, it's all about his playing. You've got to hear this guy. He's incredible. So without further ado, Martin Miller. So, Martin Miller, thank you so much for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. You're an incredible talent, and I think you've obviously got a humongous following, but if I can introduce you to a few more people, then my work will be done. Without further ado, just going to start asking you some questions, Martin, and I'm sure you would have heard all these before. But what did you come from a musical family?
Yes and no, I would say. My family is, I would say, musically inclined.
Right. Okay.
I come from a family of music listeners.
Right.
Not professional musicians, or not really musicians at all. Like my mother used to sing in church choir, very low profile, and my father could strum a few chords on guitar.
Okay.
That's about it. But he had a great record collection, which I just recently went through, just to have a little blast from the past. He had all those great '70s progressive rock records, and Miles Davis and Billy Cobham and Pink Floyd, Queen. No, not Queen, not so much. My father doesn't like Queen. Genesis.
Right. So this was your early memory, really, of music. These sort of albums and.
I remember my first favorite band that I consciously listened to was the Rolling Stones.
Ah, good choice.
That's what I first got into.
Yeah,
never liked the Beatles as much back then.
Oh, right.
It takes growing up to understand that the Beatles are actually better than the Stones, but
right, okay, yeah. That's a whole interview, right? Talking about the Beatles and Stones.
Yeah, exactly. And then I progressed into Pink Floyd from there.
Yeah.
And then I got massively in the early 90s. I'm born 85, and in the early 90s I got massively into Nirvana. I didn't even know that was a trend or something. I knew nothing about that. I didn't care. I mean, I'm from East Germany. We didn't even have any media. So I was just listening to whatever I could get my hands on, and Nirvana fell into my lap that one day, and I got really into that. And that was kind of my key into heavier music. And then I got into Metallica, into Dream Theater and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. And then at the same time, you're picking up the guitar for the first time as well, around about the same sort of time.
Yeah, very innocently, just strumming a few chords on a nylon acoustic. For some reason, on every roof of any German household, there seems to be an acoustic guitar floating around.
Right. Okay.
But nylon strings. We don't have Western guitars so much in Germany for some reason. At least back in those days. I was born in GDR, and Western guitars probably don't fit so well with the world.
Right. And what was the action like on the guitar? Was it horrendous like the one that I started on? Was it sort of like an inch from the?
Probably, yeah. I still have one of them, but it has had 4 strings on it for health and eternity now.
Yeah. So I know you studied jazz at university, but tell me about the journey from when you're first starting the guitar to when you're studying jazz. What was your progression like? What were you doing?
Okay, so I started out just experimenting away with the guitar. Pops showed me 2 or 3 chords. Mm-hmm. Somebody else showed me how to fret single notes, and I was just sliding them up and down.
Yeah.
And I didn't make much of it. And then one day my cousin came to the house bringing an electric guitar and an amplifier that had distortion built into it. I was absolutely blown away by it.
Right.
I think looking back to it now, what really grabbed me about the electric guitar in particular is I'm always drawn to compression. I like the fact that you could just barely brush the string, but through the compression of the distortion, the sound became so huge.
Yeah.
And that's something with the way I mix my music, with the way I set my amplifiers, that still sticks with me today. I just love the right amount of compression on my my sounds.
So that's your go-to effect. Do you have that on all the time in your?
Oh well, no, I don't actually use a compressor too much, except for on clean tones, just a little.
Okay.
It's just the compression in general. With any distorted sound, you will have compression. It's just,
yeah, sure.
It's just
sure.
It comes with the territory. But also the way I mix my music, I'm taking a lot of time to set the compression just right to where you have a piece of music, everything sounds good, but then when you get the compression and the levels and everything just right, it just hits you really hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always looking for that. So
yeah. I think that's the secret weapon for mixing compression. Too much. You sometimes tend to hear too much.
Oh, I hate too much.
Too much is disastrous, and it all just mulches and sounds whatever. So
I cannot listen to modern music anymore because of that reason.
Really,
I cannot stand the amount of compression and distortion they get from just driving everything too hard, and especially absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, big tangent here.
No, not at all. Not you. Talk away. No problem.
And after that, I was asking for guitar lessons.
Yeah.
But it is. My father, obviously not being a professional guitar player, he thought it would be better if I started out playing classical guitar.
Okay.
It's just really not what I wanted.
Right.
And I ended up taking really bad classical guitar lessons.
Right.
And that's when I kind of knew I really had a thing for the guitar, because the lessons were so bad, but I still stuck with it.
Right.
Looking back, it was disastrous. If that could get me away from the guitar, nothing can.
Right, exactly.
It was not because of the classical guitar itself. It was just because I had a really, really bad teacher.
Yeah. Okay. So then you had the bad teacher. Did you find a best teacher, or did you self-teach?
Luckily, yeah. And then after having done classical guitar for 2 years, I convinced my parents it was time to progress me on to a teacher that is out of town. They actually to drive me there and drive me back every once a week, and went to a way better teacher, and he did both classical and electric guitar playing.
Okay.
But mostly electric.
Okay. And were you learning? This is a fascinating question for me, and I have a thought about what the answer is going to be. But do you obviously at that point did you read music? Did you learn and read at the same time?
Yes.
Was that hand in? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And
with classical guitar more so than with with electric.
Right. Okay. And do you feel that that's a big advantage for a guitar player to be able to read music? I know it sounds like a silly question, but a lot of guitar players they do the tab thing, and it seems like a huge step to cross to learn how to read.
If you want to be a professional musician, there's no way of not reading.
Yeah.
My opinion. If you there's this thing, tablature is you're just alienating yourself towards the rest of the music world.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you're only playing guitar-driven bands where you have a bass player and 2 guitar players. If that's the comfort zone you're going to stay in, be my guest. But if you want to do anything outside of that, and honestly, part of my musical growth, I think, has been the fact that I played in all kinds of ensembles.
Right.
I've played in Latin-based ensembles, big bands.
Right.
I've played in vocally driven ensembles. I've played with orchestras, all that kind of stuff. Obviously duets with Tom Quayle, all those kind of different scenarios. You want to be able to hang with those guys. You just have to be able to read. I don't read well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a good sight reader. I used to be decent when I was in college because I had to do it every day.
Right.
But nowadays I honestly don't do it anymore, because what I do is write my own original music.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to read.
Right.
Or play covers in my own context, which is also I just transcribe because I have way quicker ears than I have eyes.
Right.
And the other scenario is I improvise, in which case I just need to be able to read chord sheets.
Absolutely. Well, talking about covers, I was checking out your Rosanna solo and extended stuff earlier today.
Oh yeah.
And I must admit, it's sublime. Absolutely sublime. That whole segment. I just want to talk to my channel viewers now. You've got to look at Martin's YouTube channel and check out the kind of music that's happening there. It's sensational. It'll open your eyes. We touched on it a little bit. Actually, I want to come back to something. So you told me about the sort of music that you listened to growing up and whatever else, and that, you know, are you still listening to the same sort of music? What's your thing now? What do you like to listen to?
Yeah, my music taste hasn't changed much.
Right.
I always thought I would never experience that kind of generation conflict that people in their 30s would tell me about, but I'm right in the middle of it. I still listen to the same stuff that I've been listening to 15 years ago.
Good for you.
It just brings me the most joy. My favorite music was done in the 70s to 90s.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That is my favorite stuff. I love 70s progressive rock. I love 90s grunge.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And basically, you've absorbed that history, and it's come out in your unique style of playing. So, you know, I would love everybody to go back in time and to listen to that era of music as well, because it was so rich.
Yeah.
And there was just an innocence about what people were doing. It wasn't done for any other reason than the joy of music. You know?
I think there's also something to it. I think if you go back, and God knows, you're in the 70s and you listen to Gates of Delirium by Yes or something like that.
Yeah.
Or you listen to Supper's Ready by Genesis.
Yeah.
I mean, that would genuinely blow your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nothing that comes out today, because everything is so readily available, and everything is everybody's exposing themselves. You're just bombarded with all this stuff. I don't think this degree of getting your mind blown is quite the same as it used to be. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm with you on that, brother. Absolutely with you. So who are your favorite guitar players? I mean, either from that period of time or now. Who do you rate? Who are your guys?
Well, the guitar players I listen to, they are, I would say, a generation beyond.
Right.
My favorite guitar players are Pat Metheny.
Right.
Steve Morse.
Yeah.
John Petrucci.
Mm-hmm.
I love Steve Lukather. Obviously.
Yeah.
I love Eric Johnson. I love Mike Stern.
Yeah.
Mike Stern is a huge influence on me.
People
don't realize, because he's not so popular with the young crowd, maybe, but such a big part of my lines is derived from what he's doing.
Wow.
Yeah, George Benson, I love.
Oh, George Benson. Oh.
Andy Timmons. Yeah, so it's for me, the guitar players, the sweet spot for the guitar players for me seems to be somewhere between the 80s and late 90s.
Yeah, I'm getting that feel, yeah.
Yeah, and I also, I had a huge phase where I listened to a ton of guys like Carl Verheyen, Brent Mason, Joe Bonamassa. Yeah. Recently, from the newer guys, I'm really into Josh Smith.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he's
phenomenal.
He's amazing. Yeah, and I got the chance to record with him recently, so that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, he's for sure a talent. So you say you mention Andy Timmons, and I know that you collaborate quite a lot with Tom Quayle.
Yeah.
How did that? Tell us a little bit about how you and Tom hooked up.
That was back in the MySpace days. You surely must remember.
I remember.
One of the few viewers who do remember. Yeah, that was back in 2008 when there was the Guitar Idol competition that was held by Lick Lavery.
Right.
And he uploaded a video of him playing through over a backing track through a webcam. It was the shittiest quality, and the only thing you could see was the guitar and his fingers. But I noticed that, first of all, this guy is actually improvising, which was rare to find, because most people just rehearse the hell out of what they do and then perform it. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I do that too.
Right.
But he was obviously improvising. What struck me was the fact that he could play legato, and the fact that he could do it in time, perfectly on the rhythm. Because the only legato I had known before was the kind of blurry type. Sure. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it, how he did it. I tried it. It didn't work. So I wrote him a message on MySpace asking for some advice. That's how we got in touch, checked out each other's stuff, and then did the Sir Mega Jam video in 2010 together.
Yeah.
That's been quite a popular video. I mean, it has 500,000 views for back then that was
Wow.
unbelievable. Nowadays that is nothing. I mean, if
Yeah. Oh, listen, I've seen some of your videos are getting over a million.
yeah.
A million hits. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, but
that's
not within 10 years, but within a couple months nowadays.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's the game has completely changed.
Yeah,
Simple.
yeah,
But back in the day, that was a big deal. It was 2010.
yeah,
Back in the day, that was a big deal.
yeah, yeah.
And then we started meeting at events like Musikmesse and NAMM,
Right.
those types of music fairs. Started jamming, and at one point in 2014, we ended up getting booked because we have the same string endorsement, IQS strings.
Right.
We ended up getting booked for the same jazz festival in Italy, and the promoter proposed that we had our own sets, and the promoter proposed that we play something together.
Right.
And instead of hooking up a backing track, we ended up jamming in Tom's hotel room and just took the real book and went through a couple of standards, and it started sounding really good very quickly. And so we ended up on stage together, playing as a duo, and we thought that would be a good idea to pursue because we both kind of got a bit tired of the whole jamming over backing tracks thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's a match made in heaven, actually.
Yeah.
And also recently I saw your collaboration with Andy Timmons as well, who's one of my favourite guys.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, just superb feel and note choice. But I've got to say that the two of you playing together was again a match made in heaven. It was marvelous. How did you collaborate with Andy, Martin?
Well, I had known him through a little tour we've done in 2015. I was supporting him a little. I was traveling along and opening up for him.
Yeah.
So we knew of each other and we were in touch. And in late 2016, I started growing this little session band baby.
Yeah.
Get together with the band and film stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point, I felt it became big enough for where it could be interesting to a guy like Andy.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for I always thought I had to have him over, and I just waited for the right time to ask him. He happened to be on tour in Germany, had an off day, and I got in touch with the guys from Ibanez Germany to plan around that, and they were so gracious and so supportive that they made it all happen. They drove out, and yeah, it was awesome. And we spent basically half the day recording. The recording session took 6 hours, and we recorded 4 tunes, 3 of which are released at this point, and I got 1 more that I'm holding back for.
Oh, okay. I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah.
So that moves quite nicely into this studio band that you've got. I love the format. It's a really beautiful room. You're all together. You've got great footage of each other. The sound quality is phenomenal. So how did that come about? Where that's obviously near where you live, or is it downstairs? Or I mean,
I wish it was downstairs.
Yeah,
2 hours from where I live.
Oh gosh, right.
And it's actually, first of all, the co-owner of the studio is the keyboard guy, because obviously he has his rig is just insane, right?
It's huge. It's insane, yeah.
Yeah. So. Drummer is from Berlin. That's 4-hour ride, and the bass player is actually from Stuttgart, which is a 6-hour ride. So we have to actually come together. And believe it or not, we are 15 people total when we record.
Gosh.
Because we don't use B-roll footage. What most people do nowadays, the pseudo live stuff, is they pre-record or pre-produce something, and then they have one camera guy film everybody after another, doing the same performance over and over. Yeah. But we don't do that because we improvise. We cannot do that.
Right.
So we are in the room, we are recording live, and we need to have at least 5 people operating cameras.
Right.
Same time, plus all the static angles, plus an audio guy, plus my father who does all the file transferring and backups. Pretty important. Wow. We have a director. We have all kinds of people. We're 15 people while it happens. Otherwise, the project, it just won't happen.
Yeah.
Somebody to clean dishes. It's all those practical concerns, It's what if we're using in-ears? What if our belt packs run out of batteries? We need somebody to drive into the city and get us batteries. It's so much work. It's unbelievable. And so I kind of stumbled upon the thing really. In 2016, I played at the Ibanez Guitar Festival in Germany, and there's a nice video on my channel where we play Travels by Pat Metheny, and it's a really nice recording. And I asked those guys, can you please send me the multi-track so I can mix it? Because the sound quality, it was taken directly from the board, so it was mixed to sound good in the room. And that
right, of course.
Can I get it's all good. The performance is great. Can I get a multi-track to make it sound decent?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. And so I thought, man, this is awesome. But if the sound quality and video quality could be a little bit better, we would.
Yeah.
So I basically invited that whole band minus the bass player. I took somebody else for bass who I knew for a very, very long time, wanted to always work with, and booked a studio in Leipzig. That was the first time we got together in late 2016 and just played a couple of my tunes and maybe one or two covers.
Right.
And the last thing we recorded was Little Wing. And funnily enough, that was the second song I released, and that was my first viral video I ever had on YouTube.
Wow.
And it's 1.5 million views now, and it was not intended to be anything big.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, wow, there's some potential here. People are connecting with what we're doing.
Yeah.
At the same time, the guys from Bloomin, which is where we're recording, the keyboard guy plus his band, started creating their own studio. So we migrated there, and my initial plan, believe it or not, was to go into a different studio every time and work with different musicians every time. And now the concept is same studio every time, same guys every time, and everybody's located in the same corner every time. So some level of consistency to the video.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. I think you've hit a rich vein of quality, spontaneity, the production values. It doesn't surprise me that you've got that amount of people. The production values are fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And actually, considering that you do have 5 guys filming, it doesn't distract from what's going on. It's all about the music and the spontaneity.
Some people criticize that you can see the camera guys on the video. First of all, it wouldn't be possible otherwise. The only thing we could do is set up static angles, and that would be the most boring thing.
No, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Don't change the format. I think it's brilliant. It shows that it's
not a music video, it's a documentary.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's a documentary. And I think the cool thing is, let's say you see the angle of the keyboard player. In the background, you see somebody walk from the drum set towards me and point the camera at me. And the next thing you see is the guitar shot at me. And you just know that really happened. That is not put together.
Yeah,
I think absolutely. That's whether people realize it or not, I think that's what draws them towards those videos, is how authentic they are.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me a little bit, and I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen Daryl's House?
Yeah, and some people, I didn't know what it was until some people started commenting that this is like Daryl's house. Yeah, I've seen it.
I mean, it's different, but there's a sort of theme. But I think it's a wonderful way to do things: live, spontaneous.
Yeah, and I just, this is just an art form that seems to get lost in modern times, where people just get together and play. We're human beings, are social beings. There is a need to exchange each other, and whether that's by communicating through speech or communicating through music, that is something that I think that is timeless. As long as we stay social as people, there will be a need to exchange musically on a social level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, Martin, I'd like to talk now about equipment, if we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
You're an Ibanez guy, and I love Ibanez. I bought my first Ibanez. I'm not joking. Almost before you were born. So and it's hanging on the wall here, and I love it to bits. So, how did that all come across? I mean, obviously, I think with somebody with your credentials now, you probably would have had the pick of a few different guitar companies. So why Ibanez?
Yeah. So first of all, Ibanez, in my opinion, is for people who were born in the mid '80s, let's say early '80s to early '90s. It's what Fender and Gibson is to the '60s and '70s generation. Yeah. That's what Ibanez is to our generation. Like all those guitar heroes I had. John Petrucci, Frank Gambale, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, George Benson, all Ibanez players.
Yeah.
Andy Timmons, Paul Gilbert.
Yeah.
You name it. All those guys I've been checking out when I was young. So I've been an Ibanez player I got my first Ibanez when I was maybe 14, 15.
Okay.
So yeah, in 2000. around 2000, 2001 maybe. That's when I got my first Ibanez, and I've had tons of Ibanezes through the years. I ended up playing a Sur, I ended up playing a Charvel, ended up playing all kinds of stuff through the years, but I always came back to the Ibanezes.
Right.
I had a Fender, I had an Epiphone, I had all that stuff. I was a student, I only ever had one or two guitars at a time though.
Okay.
So it was a revolving door of guitars.
Yeah. So actually, it was your guitar of choice. So that's a logical.
And in early 2015, well, first of all, the several distributors from Ibanez tried to get me on board to do a collaboration with them, and at the time I didn't want to have endorsements because I take that stuff very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I knew where my career was going to make the right choice.
Right.
So I waited it out until finally in early 2015, the guys from Hoshino, the brand holder of Ibanez, saw me play at NAMM, and they got in touch. Like the core of the company got in touch, and at which point there was just no way I could refuse an offer.
Wow.
So and at the time I had signature guitar offers from other brands that I declined in favor of just a regular artist endorsement with Ibanez.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how important it is to me.
Yeah, that shows, and it's nice to hear that you took that sort of seriously, because it's an extension, isn't it, of your being when you're playing guitar, and especially when you play as well as you do.
No, it's also, I think of it, it's somebody is putting trust in you, is investing time and money into you, and you got to pay them back at least equally.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and and I just wanted to make sure that's the right moment where I can promise that. And and also, by the way, when I started with Ibanez, there was no talk of a signature guitar or anything.
Right.
Nothing. And I committed to Ibanez knowing that I may never receive a signature guitar. I in the back of my mind, I thought maybe in 15 years or something.
Right.
When I've been with them for long enough, they just give me one out of politeness. but I happened to be in the right place at the right time where they came up with the Ibanez AZ range, and they needed a few faces to represent.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are the just so the viewers can find out, what are the sort of unique pieces on your particular guitar?
Yeah.
Would you say?
I get a stock Ibanez AZ here as well, but this is my signature guitar. Key features. Well, I let you know my favorite feature, which I didn't realize was my favorite feature until I toured Asia 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Is the roasted maple neck.
Right.
And it's actually they invented a more elaborate procedure to get the moisture out of the neck. They call it Aztec, and basically it's some kind of nitrogen processing that goes beyond what other companies do in the whole baking process. Tom and I toured Europe last year. We went to Finland. We had minus 10 degrees, God knows what. This year we just went to Bangkok, 36 degrees, 95% humidity. And the neck did not move. I have not touched this neck ever since I got the guitar.
Wow.
And I still haven't. And it's still not buzzing.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Wow, that's something.
I have other guitars also by Ibanez who don't have that. I have a maple neck Talman, and it's one of my favorite guitars that I own, but I needed to have it set up whenever the season changes, period.
Wow, that's interesting. And what pickups do you have in there, Martin?
Yeah, so those are Seymour Duncan Hyperions.
Right.
The humbuckers. Okay. They're designed for the guitar specifically by Seymour Duncan, so you cannot get them anywhere else.
Okay. And they're screwed directly into the body, are they?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the thing with them is that this bridge is designed by Goto. It's based on the 510 by Goto, but it's also it's let's say it's enhanced for the AZ with titanium saddles for extra sustain, and the string spacing is slightly narrower. So therefore, they also had to make adjustments to the pickups because
absolutely,
slightly narrower than usual to make like the playability a bit easier.
Yeah.
And they obviously have locking tuners, stainless steel frets. On nickel fretted guitars, I need to get, if it's my main guitar, I need to get the frets redressed every 1.5 years. On this one, they just don't show anywhere. Period.
Wow.
There's a few things I cannot live without anymore. It's definitely the baked maple, definitely the stainless steel frets, and the locking tuners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And the awesome thing about this tremolo, it's also recessed, so you can pull it up.
Oh, I was going to say, it didn't look like it was. Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
It's man, I'm a sucker for tremolos, and I've tried all of them. This is, in my opinion, the best tremolo that has ever been created. The 510 anyway, and for this guitar, the slightly.
And it's recessed. So, do you have some sort of stop piece in the back? There are some sort of tremolo systems that have a sort of an equalizer system where if you break a string, it will keep staying. No,
you could install a tremolo. No,
right.
I haven't broken this. I broke one string that was due to a faulty saddle, not on this guitar, but other than that, I broke one string in 7 years, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I don't change strings often. Yeah.
Well, really?
Lucky. Yeah. Well, the problem is with all those systems that keep the guitar in tune when the string breaks, is that you cannot pull the tremolo up anymore.
Right.
Or at least not without a major change to the action of it.
Yeah.
Also, I think to me the whole thing of the guitar staying in tune when a string breaks is a non-issue. When one of my strings breaks, I cannot play a single one of my tunes anymore. Period.
Right. Okay.
Why bother? Why bother trying to force my way through a song anyway? It's not going to work.
And what about the switch that you've got there between the volume and tone? Is it tapped?
That is so much more than a tap.
Oh.
You obviously have the 5-way switch which has the standard wiring, but this switch rewires the entire guitar, so you can have any combination of those pickups in series or parallel.
Fabulous.
So it comes with 10 different sounds. And also, I think the pickups, I'm not an electronics guy, but they become slightly underwound, which gives them a different sound. Like one of my favorite positions for the clean tone is this switch disengaged, position 2. That's my classic spark clean sound. But if I go to the middle and engage this, it sounds 80%, 85% similar to that, but with way more bass and output.
Right.
It's awesome if you have an amp that doesn't have a lot of balls, for the lack of a better word, that the right kind of kick.
Yeah, and is that the sort of thing that you would with other guitars before you had your signature? Would you do those kind of amendments on your guitars to get those sounds, or is this a new thing?
No, that is a new thing.
Yeah.
I use that is the one sound I use with that switch.
Right.
It's the middle position with the switch engaged for a sparkly clean tone.
Right.
But to me, it's worth having all those other 4 positions just to fool around with.
Yeah, absolutely.
But live, the middle position is the one that I go to regularly. Yeah.
Fabulous.
And it's worth having the switch, in my opinion, just for that one sound, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great amendment. I mean, 2 pickups and 10 sounds. It's a no-brainer, really. Who wouldn't want more?
This guitar has exceptional clean tones built into it, and without the switch, I use 3 positions. I use the humbucker bridge.
Yeah. I
use the humbucker neck, and I use position 2. Middle position, and before that switch, I never used the middle position. I just didn't think it was doing any good. But now it is. Yeah.
And you're also with Laney as well, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Very long time now, for 5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
Oh, excellent. And what do you favour, the head and cab, or do you combos? What's your?
I love the IRT series, and I like whatever. Kind of my favorite amp at the moment is the SLS, the small one.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just, for example, I play a lot of highly distorted stuff, but my distortion is preamp distortion and not power amp distortion. I actually am one of those guys who likes the power amp fairly clean.
Right.
Take the gain from the preamp, because I also want to have that fake Pat Metheny sound that I go to that is super clean.
Right. Okay.
And with that kind of, they call it Class D, I think. Class D power amp, 300 watts. It has so much headroom, which makes, when you play heavy distortion, makes the low palm muted notes. So it just has so much headroom, it's so tight.
Yeah.
And you can get perfectly clean tones from it. That's my current favorite.
Yeah, perfect. And So you're using the Laney to drive for the drive sounds. You're not driving a clean amp, so to speak.
Well, it depends on the situation. Live, whenever I can, I will use a multi-effects unit and use 4-cable method with the Laney.
Right.
And have all the sounds from the Laney. That is the best sound, period.
Right.
All the sounds from the Laney and have the effects from the multi-effects units. Sometimes, like when I have a ton of gigs after another, I just take the atomic amplifier pedal,
Right.
tiny pedal, and use that as a preamp directly into the power amp. Of the Laney. So I use the power amp and the cap, and the preamp plus effects from the atomic amplifier.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that sounds great. And it's super convenient, super quick to set up. And believe it or not, the power amp and the cap have a massive effect on the outcome. So I wouldn't have any other amp on stage other than one of the Ironhearts. That's what my whole setup's tweaked towards to, even if I use a different preamp.
Right, absolutely. And what about effects? Are you do you have an extensive board or
No, I keep things extremely small.
Right.
Again, either use a Fractal Audio AX8 Live.
Right.
Or nowadays, just the atomic amplifier, because it's less than half the size and a quarter of the weight.
Right.
I don't use a ton of effects. I use a delay, I use a reverb, I use a bit of compression on the clean sound, and that's about it. Sometimes a tremolo for a clean tone.
Yeah.
Not much of an effects guy otherwise.
Yeah. I think it's in the fingers, Martin.
I guess so. Well, some effects aren't in the fingers. How are you going to get a chorus effect?
Okay.
Those steps, if you need them, I personally don't need those types of things so much. And I keep it live. I keep it very simple. Usually one delay setting, either on or off. That's it.
Yeah.
Or maybe a second delay setting for an ambient kind of sound. I don't go crazy with it. Just keep it simple and straightforward.
Yeah. Perfect. So, just really for the viewers again, where obviously Martin Miller on YouTube. Where now you do have quite an extensive teaching library. So where can people find more about you and be taught with you, and you do Skype lessons? So
yes. So if you want to come study in person with me, the best way would be to apply for Dresden College of Music, which is where I teach.
Right.
Karl Maria von Weber College in Dresden. That's where I graduated, and I've been teaching there for the past 4 years.
Right.
Other than that, you can go to martinmillerguitar.com, which is where you find links to my tuitional products on JTC.
Yep.
You can book Skype lessons through that system I told you about before we started.
Yeah.
It's automatic. You don't even have to send me an email. There's no correspondence necessary. Just book a lesson and show up.
Wow.
So my webpage would be the way to go about
perfect
the educational side. Yeah.
And finally, Martin, somebody starting out, a 14, 15-year-old out there, they're plonking around with a few chords. What advice would you give them?
Wow, that's an interesting one. First of all, don't spend so much time online, because what you see online is not what you get in real life. So take it easy.
Right.
Don't look at what anybody else is doing. Be the best you can be for yourself. That sounds so cheesy, but it's nowadays more true than ever.
Yeah.
With everybody showing off the best version of themselves, or a hyped version of themselves, a Photoshop version of themselves.
Yeah.
Disregard that. Do your own thing. Get out there, interact with people on a musical level, jam, take lessons, exchange knowledge, talk to each other, socialize, play gigs, do rehearsals. Don't care about the view counts and followers so much, and that'll come over time. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's great advice, Martin. I could talk to you for another 3 hours, but I just want to thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I wish you continued success.
Oh, thank you very much, Andy.
And I hope maybe in the future, if there's something that you're doing differently, or you want to promote, or whatever else, get in contact and we can hook up again.
I can mention right now, I'm currently, meaning the moment we stop this conversation, I'm getting back to working on my second solo album. I'm currently in the process of mixing the drums we recorded. The whole album is written. Drums are recorded, guitars are recorded, keyboards are recorded, bass is almost entirely recorded. It's just mixing and writing lyrics and recording vocals because it's my first vocal album.
Oh wow!
Yes. Yes.
Listen, might I add that you've got a bloody decent voice as well.
Oh, thank you very much.
So you're like a triple threat. You know, you've got the voice as well. So
yeah, well, I've been taking. To be fair, that didn't come about so easily. I've been taking serious vocal instruction for the past 3 years, and in the past 6 months, I've been actually taking bel canto, meaning opera lessons.
Wow!
And been taking that very, very seriously, and yeah, practicing every day. Yeah.
I look forward to hearing more of that, Martin.
Nice.
So once again, thank you so much, Martin, and I hope we get a chance to speak again. But continued success, and we look forward to that second album.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, take care, Martin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.